Again, thank you everybody for joining us this morning for our OCIF announcement. I'm going to ask Mary Moran, President and CEO of Calgary Economic Development, to kick things off, and she will act as your MC and host today as well. Thank you. And remember, if you have questions, please enter them in the Q&A box on the bottom of the screen.
Thank you so much, Brad, and good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to be part of this virtual event for our latest funding announcement for Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund. We are delighted to announce, along with Western Economic Development or Diversification, that Endeavour will establish its operations in Canada and have the headquarters here in Calgary. This announcement adds something unique to Calgary's business community and supports a vision in our economic strategy, Calgary and the New Economy, for our city to be the strongest B2B innovation ecosystem, enabling super smart people in our community to solve problems for the world. I'm joined by Mark Blackwell, the Chair of Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund Board, and by Susan Anderson, who is the CEO of Cannonball Capital here in Calgary, and the newly minted Chair of the Board of Endeavour Canada. We are also pleased that Calgary's Mayor, Najed Nanchi, who is also an Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund Board member, is joining us today. My role here today is to serve as MC with our other speakers and manage the questions from reporters. So before I turn the Zoom screen over to Mark, I want to recognize one other organization that was involved in today's announcement, Western Economic Diversification. We were unable to have the minister join us this morning due to scheduling issues. However, we did receive a statement from the Honourable Melanie Joly, the Minister of Economic Development in the official languages, and the Minister responsible for Western Economic Diversification Canada. Minister Joly writes, "When I speak with entrepreneurs in Alberta and across Canada, I'm always reminded of the importance of fostering a supportive business environment that promotes Canadian ingenuity on a global level. This is why I'm proud we're enabling Endeavour to establish its first ever Canadian office here in Calgary and ensuring that our leading entrepreneurs can benefit from the international network of mentors, supports, and resources." Well, thank you, Minister Joly, for your message, and I couldn't agree with you more. I always make the point that economic development requires alignment of all orders of government in order to be successful. And today's Endeavour announcement is an example of that cross-government collaboration and how it will pay dividends for Canada and for Calgary for years to come. After we hear from our speakers, I'll take questions from the media. And as Brad pointed out, that you can submit your questions via the chat function with your name, organization, and the person that you would like to answer the question. I'll then call upon you to ask your question. Right now, I'll turn the screen over to Mark Blackwell, the Chair of Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, and he'll give you more perspective on today's announcement and what it will mean for Calgary and for Canada. Over to you, Mark.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary, and good morning, everybody. I'm pleased to be part of this event this morning and announce our latest funding agreement on behalf of the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund. As chairman of OCIF, on behalf of all the members on our board, we are pleased today to announce a $1 million investment in support of the launch of Endeavour Canada with its headquarters here in Calgary. This agreement with Endeavour will have local, national, and international impacts. We just looked last week, the CVCA released the 2020 annual report, which saw the second highest record of venture capital investment in the country. And an announcement like today will have lasting impacts on building off of that foundation. Last year alone, we saw $455 million into startups and scale-ups in the Alberta ecosystem across 51 companies, or 10% of the national dollars flowed to scale-ups and startups. That represents a 2x increase in the province year over year. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're starting to see an early glimpse into how our ecosystem is maturing to support those tiny little seedlings that have been supported by so many organizations in the ecosystem that are now blossoming to become real, true scale-up companies. But we still have a long way to go, and with the help to help create the next cohort of Simons, Adabotics, Benevides, Ucernas, and that's why we're so excited about this announcement today. Endeavour is yet another building block to help support those companies, bringing with them a truly global network and reach, world-class programming and mentors, their $250 million Catalyst Fund, and numerous case studies of supporting some of the leading tech companies in the world. We are so excited that they've picked Calgary to be their headquarters. And we're able to do that with the support of Western Economic Diversification Canada to the table to help launch Endeavour in Canada. And a special thanks to Justin and his entire team for their support through this process. We also wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the vision and leadership of Susan Anderson, who would be the incoming board chair of Endeavour Canada. She's a proven entrepreneur, CEO, investor, mentor, and CDL colleague, and made this possible today alongside the amazing staff at Endeavour. We're also extremely excited to see Brad Zumwalt and Dr. Chen Fong of Calgary, who have also been appointed to the Endeavour board here in Canada. The board of OCIF's support of Endeavour is a true investment in Calgary-based companies. OCIF has the mandate to support and accelerate Calgary's economic long-term growth and diversification, to set Calgary in the new economy and invest funds to achieve this goal. Today's announcement is our 15th funding announcement since the launch of the fund in April 2018. And with the announcement today, we've now committed over $43 million to those organizations and have some very exciting news that we'll be talking about later this week. So I'm super excited to make today's announcement, and a special thanks again to Susan and the entire Endeavour team for your efforts in today's launch. Back to you, Mary.
Thanks so much, Mark. And I couldn't agree with you more. Susan Anderson has been definitely the driving force behind this, and to bring Endeavour Canada to Calgary. Well, actually, to bring it to Canada and to bring it to Calgary. And Susan, it feels like a lifetime ago that we met to start this conversation. Obviously, this was pre-COVID, but I just want to acknowledge something else that Mark said about how pleased we are, one, that you have stepped in to be the board chair for Endeavour, but I think the importance of having two more Calgarians, as Mark mentioned, Brad Zumwalt and Dr. Chen Fong, who will be founding members. And this clearly is supportive of where we want to go in Calgary, and that Calgary will be well represented on this Endeavour Canada board. So without further ado, Susan, I'll turn it over to you for your comments.
Thanks, Mary. I'm a born and raised Calgarian and love Calgary. And so I'm thrilled that Endeavour has chosen Calgary as well to be its first office in Canada. It will be the only office in Canada. I'm thrilled to be the chair of the organization. Let me say a few words about Endeavour and why I think it's important for Canada and Calgary, and why it resonated with me as an entrepreneur. The organization was established in 1997, so it's been around for 24 years. It is a not-for-profit. It's based in New York City, but it has over 64 offices, and Canada will be the 39th country in which it has a presence. It is the only global scale-up accelerator, and it helps entrepreneurs really grow and scale their companies. And some people will say, well, what's a scale up? What does that mean? Endeavour uses the term high impact entrepreneur. And what that means is these are entrepreneurs who are beyond startup. Their businesses are well established. They have a significant amount of revenue. They're growing rapidly. The entrepreneurs are pay it forward type entrepreneurs, very able to be mentored. As well, they want to give back to the communities in which they have started their companies. So it appealed to me as an entrepreneur because starting a business, as we all know, is really hard, but scaling a business on a global level is even more challenging. And unfortunately, many Canadian businesses fail at this hurdle, and in many cases sell to a larger player who has already established a global footprint. And we end up losing those companies for Canada and ultimately even in Calgary. BDC actually wrote a report in 2017 about the scale-up issue that we have in Canada. And Endeavour offers a very unique proposition in that it will guide our Canadian entrepreneurs through the process of scaling. And by scaling, I mean growing, and growing tenfold. By providing a number of very tangible benefits, which include access to mentors, world-class mentors, over 3,000 of them in their network globally, access to capital, access to global markets, as well as an unparalleled peer-to-peer network, and many other benefits that these entrepreneurs are going to reap by becoming or qualifying as an Endeavour entrepreneur. The success of these businesses to scale is absolutely critical to Canada as well as to Calgary's economic success, because it's these companies, these growing companies, these companies that are growing very rapidly and scaling, that add the most amount of jobs to our economy and ultimately will add a significant portion of tax revenue. In my opinion as well, these scale-ups are critically important to our tech ecosystem, because the founders of these companies in turn become mentors and funders of other entrepreneurs. They pay it forward, and thus creating a virtuous circle. Endeavour also has a number of case studies about the network effect of scale-ups in communities and in countries. And, but I'll give you a Canadian example that I can think of. And if you're my age, you'll remember carrying around a BlackBerry. And as we all know, Research in Motion was established in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. It grew rapidly, it scaled globally. And what ended up happening was a number of the young engineers that worked there ended up leaving there and starting their own companies. And then the founders, a lot of the founders of Research in Motion in turn helped fund those people. So there was all of these other entrepreneurs that were established as a result of Research in Motion, as a result of open text, which was one of the things and the reasons why the Kitchener-Waterloo corridor is so successful today. It's because of scale-ups that started their companies, grew their companies, globally scaled their companies, had this huge, incredible talent pool working there that in turn became entrepreneurs themselves. And this is what we want for Calgary. This is what we want for Canada. I want to thank OCIF. I want to thank WD for supporting the establishment of Endeavour Canada in Calgary. As Mark said, there are 3 directors from Calgary, and we're really excited to have the opportunity to help high impact entrepreneurs grow their businesses globally. As well, I want to thank our board of directors, which comes from the rest of Canada. All of our board have either started companies or significantly grown companies. They're all entrepreneurs in their own right. They're here, they're going to give back. We're all going to mentor. And I want to thank them for coming on this journey, and we're really excited for what we can accomplish. And I think it's going to be really critical to have this type of world-class organization in Calgary to help our entrepreneurs. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Susan. And I think your address certainly gives people a perspective on how catalytic this project is going to be, not just for Canada, but in particular for Calgary. The next speaker obviously requires no introduction. Mayor Najed Nanchi. He is also a member of the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund board since the beginning. And I'd like to invite you for some words, Mayor Nanchi.
Well, thanks very much, Mary, and thank you, Susan, and thank you, Mark, for this tremendous introduction. You know, you would be forgiven if you really felt like there is incredible momentum happening in Calgary right now as we look at our post-pandemic economic recovery. And this is another important part of that. You know, it was over 20 years ago that I did my first study on the innovation economy in Canada. And at that time, we identified, even 20 years ago, that one of the biggest gaps was in what we now call scale-up companies. In other words, not in pure startups, but in helping companies that were go from being startups and small businesses to medium-sized enterprises and even large enterprises. And this is really where Endeavour is one of the best in the world at filling that gap. And that's why I'm so excited about today's announcement. You know, we started the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund and seeded it as a driver for Calgary's economy, making strategic investments to advance our economic development strategy. What's that economic development strategy called again, Mary? I always forget. Calgary in the new economy. And you'll have noticed that OCIF has evolved over time. We've gone from making transformative investments in individual companies, to really thinking about what we're calling ecosystem investments, investments that will turn on themselves and leverage their own funding in order to be able to attract more and impact a lot more companies. And while we've had great success through the program so far, we have more work to do as we turn around our city's economic fortunes. And that's why Endeavour Canada is such an exciting opportunity. You know, we had folks like Susan and Brad Zumwalt and Chen Fong tell us, look, we actually know how to solve this problem. We have an organization that has been doing that around the world. And this is precisely what we need here in Calgary. And after a lot of due diligence, we realized that Endeavour was such a great fit for what we're trying to do here and for the entrepreneurship here in Calgary. Because access to capital, access to strategic advice really can help turn our local companies into global companies. And that's really what this is all about. And so we're thrilled to partner with OCIF, with Western Economic Diversification Canada, to help Endeavour set up in Canada and set up right here with their head office in Calgary. This could mean very big things for small businesses across the country, which we're very excited about. And establishing that pipeline for local businesses to get access to the tools they need to grow really ensures that we're all partners in their future success. And the timing couldn't be better as we are building on the momentum that is happening in Calgary right now. So many businesses are going to be at that stage where they really need the scale up assistance. So some would say Endeavour is right on time. So congratulations to everyone. Susan, thank you for taking on this role, and we cannot wait to see what happens next.
Thanks so much, Mayor Nanchi, and I couldn't agree with you more. This will put a great spotlight globally on Calgary and our ability to attract investment into not just Calgary, but Canada. And I think it's going to be a watershed moment for Calgary for sure. So that concludes the formal part of our press conference this morning, and I would like to open it up for Q&A. Now, just one technical issue, if you can, if the media can put your questions in the Q&A, unfortunately you're unable to mute, but I will read the questions and you can, I'd be pleased to accept them, read them out loud, and also direct it to the person you wish to hear from. So I'm seeing no questions so far. I'll just wait a few more moments just in case there are any other questions.
You know, Mary, you are acting in the simple role of MC today, but I wouldn't actually mind hearing from you while we're waiting for questions, why we think this scale up piece is so important in the work that we're doing in Calgary in the new economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think a couple of things. One is that we know that companies historically in Calgary have been able to survive, and it's been tough for a number of reasons, but partly because the need for mentorship and resources and funding and support is quite critical. And so although we're building out, and a lot of Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund has gone towards helping people in the earlier stage, and we're going to continue to do that. This is further down the continuum. And this is, this is going to be helping companies like we see Adabotics, even companies that Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund has invested in. This is going to help them grow to the next stage, become bigger companies, more successful. So it really is filling out a continuum that is greatly needed here in the community, but also in Canada. It looks like we do have some questions. So I am going to, I'll start at the beginning. So this isn't from anybody in particular, an anonymous question, but what's the revenue threshold Endeavour will be focused on? And please describe its lane relative to other initiatives in Calgary, such as Platform and CDL Rockies. Susan, I think I might have answered the latter part of the question, but certainly you can reinforce that if you want to answer that question.
Sure. So with respect to Platform and CDL, CDL really focuses on very, very early stage companies. Often the companies are literally an idea. And so they're what we would consider pre-seed or seed companies. A lot of them don't have revenue. They're just at the very beginning stages of their company formation. For sure, CDL will be, I think a lot of companies that come out of CDL will ultimately and hopefully become Endeavor type companies once they actually get product market fit and start growing and actually get revenue. So they would be almost a feeder into this program. Platform Calgary as well does focus, my understanding is it does focus primarily on startups. But again, startups end up becoming scale-ups. And so this is the next stage. It's the next stage beyond that. In terms of a revenue threshold, there isn't really a hard and fast number that Endeavor uses, but I would say would be $1 million in annual revenue would be a low threshold of what Endeavor is looking for. Sometimes some of the Endeavor companies have $50 million in revenue as well. It's all about, can they 10x it? Can they take 50 million to 500 million? Can they take 1 million to 10 million? And Endeavor is there to help them get through that process and really scale that company. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so, Susan. There are a couple of others, and some are for any of the panelists. So Ken McGilvery has asked the question of any of the panelists, is there an estimate of how many jobs this move to Calgary is expected to create? So I think, first of all, it's not a move, it's an establishment, because it's not moving from somewhere else in Canada. It's actually setting up here in Calgary. But I'm happy for any of you to answer that.
Sure. I think there's two aspects to it. One is there will be the Endeavor office in Canada will be located in downtown Calgary, and it will initially have 2 staff. But what's more important, I think, than that is the companies that Endeavor is going to mentor and coach and get them to 10 times that revenue. It's the employees that in turn creates, and that's the staff that is created. And when you look at Endeavor's impact globally to date, they've over 4 million jobs have been created by Endeavor entrepreneurs. So it's all about that job creation of the companies that Endeavor is going to take under its wing and mentor and help grow. And so we don't have any specific target at this point, but we will be reporting on that. And that's something that's very important, and that Endeavor as a global organization does track. They track how many entrepreneurs, how many jobs are created, how much revenue is created, how much capital is raised, et cetera. So those are all metrics that will be measured.
Yes, I agree, Susan. I think that unlike when we're doing company attraction or attraction of anchors and stars, it's not necessarily about the jobs that we create when we're investing in ecosystems such as Endeavor. Ecosystem is about how many companies we get through and the follow-on results of the number of jobs created and the follow-on investments that comes into the community and or the companies. So I think that is a great answer for that, and hopefully helps people understand that an ecosystem investment is different than a company attraction investment. So the results are longer term for sure. Yeah, sure, absolutely, Mark.
Just to emphasize one of Susan's points, the network effect. I think we're already starting to see this permeate in the ecosystem, where Adabotics, Simend, Solium, we're already starting to see companies spin off of that. And the network effect, we have the direct impact of helping scale ups. But the actual benefit that I see really long-term for Calgary is that if we can continue to inspire and have those companies, the spin-offs that will come out of that, and we're starting to see. So I think there's the primary benefit of supporting those scale-ups and making sure they have the right resource mentorship to scale, but also then making sure we have the right scaffolding to support those spin-offs and entrepreneurs that want to go from that. And we're in the early days of it, but we're already starting to see startups that have spun off of Solium and startups that have spun off of Benevity. And so I think that's going to be the company creation side of the benefit that Endeavor is going to provide as well.
Without a doubt. And I think the example of RIM in Waterloo and the investments that came out of that from people that were involved in RIM is a great example of that. Colleen Underwood from CBC has a number of questions here. And so I think we've answered most of them, Colleen, but you just tapped me on the shoulder if we didn't, except for you asked how many companies will it help every year and how will they be selected? So Susan, I'll pass that one over to you.
Sure. So there's quite an extensive selection process that the Endeavour staff locally will do. It typically takes somewhere between 6 and 9 months because the Endeavour staff will do a very deep dive into the company's business. And then what happens is they go through this application process and then they come to a local selection panel, which will be made up of people on the board of directors of Endeavour, but we can also include other panelists from perhaps from the industry that the company is from. If they get through the Canada local selection panel and they really believe that this is a company that has the capability to scale, and as well, I mean, Endeavour really does look at what kind of entrepreneur is this? Is this an entrepreneur that is going to pay it forward, is going to want to really support the ecosystem long term? And in many other countries where Endeavour has offices, a lot of the selected Endeavour entrepreneurs end up becoming board members of that office. And that's what we're hoping for Canada as well. From that point, they go into an international selection panel, which are now all virtual. So they go through an international selection panel with other board members from other Endeavour offices across the world. I think probably a number of people on this call have actually sat through some of those panels. It's absolutely world-class people that are either entrepreneurs or venture capitalists. And then from there, about 70% of them statistically right now, then ultimately become selected as an Endeavour entrepreneur. Once you're an Endeavour entrepreneur, you are an Endeavour entrepreneur for life. So Endeavour supports you from then on. So that's the selection process. And then once they are selected, then the staff starts working with them to figure out where Endeavour can add value. What mentorship they need, who they can connect them with. If they're trying to open, as we all know, in Canada may be the initial market for a company, but Canada's a pretty small place. So for companies to really grow big and grow and scale, they need to sell their products and services outside of Canada. And so Endeavour will really help them do that and figure it out and how to get into other markets. If they want to get into Argentina or Colombia or United States or the UK or Australia, whatever market it is, they're there to help with that process. So sorry, Mary, I'm thinking, did I answer?
Yeah,
was there
you
another
did.
question?
Absolutely, you did answer it. I think two things I'd like to build upon. One is that you run these programs internationally, and certainly by having the headquarters here for Endeavour in Canada, and we've talked about having some of the international events, and assuming that we move beyond virtual at some point, that it means a lot of international companies and Canadian companies will be coming into Calgary, and gives us an opportunity, if they're in a rapid growth, to pitch Calgary as a place where they can either set up a Western headquarters or a Canadian headquarters. So there's a trickle-on effect for economic development beyond your core function. We do have another question, which is there a cost to accessing the program once a company is selected to be an Endeavour entrepreneur?
No, there's Endeavour does ask the entrepreneur to contribute $10,000, but if they can't, then it's not an issue. So so I guess the answer is it's requested, but not if the entrepreneur's not able to, then it's okay, and they basically receive all these services for free. It is a not-for-profit organization. All the money is funded either through donations from all of us as board of directors contribute to the organization, as well as, we will get funding as well from other parties.
Great. Okay, this is, we have an off-topic conversation by Ken McGilvery that I asked Ken to direct to the mayor's office, as it's not related to this topic of today. But I thank you for your inquiry, and we'll make sure that we pass that along to the mayor's office. And another question has come in about the Catalyst Fund. And Mark, I think this is directed at you.
Yeah, maybe Susan, maybe to you. I think one of the other components to the whole programming part of Endeavor is there's also a fund that has been established that sits alongside the non-for-profit. So maybe I wonder if you can provide some insights onto that and how that affects some of the companies that you guys work with.
Sure. So in 2012, Endeavor launched something called the Catalyst Fund. And basically what it is, the idea actually came from Reid Hoffman. We all know Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, who sits on the global board for Endeavor. And because each of these offices needs to be funded every year because it's a not-for-profit, he said, well, we've got all these great companies. Why are we not investing in them? And then when they have all this success, we can help fund the office with that investment. So through his leadership, they established in the Catalyst Fund. They're now in Fund 3. They're about to launch Fund 4. And the way it works is Endeavor is an entrepreneur first organization. So it will never negotiate with the entrepreneur to be the lead investor in a round. So it will only ever follow. It will only follow a round of $5 million. It will do up to 10% to a maximum of $2 million investment. And so all of these companies will have the opportunity to have the Endeavor Catalyst, if it passes their standards, to be invested in. And then the way it works is all the people that are invested in the Endeavor Catalyst Fund. So it's basically members of the board from Endeavor, other Endeavor entrepreneurs that are the limited partners in the Endeavor Catalyst Funds. 50%, so say a company is grown and is exited and there's a big win, 50% of that goes back to the investor in the Catalyst Fund, but 50% of it goes into the office that brought forward that Endeavor entrepreneur. So the whole concept was to be able to have these offices be self-sustaining. And so they're starting to really reap the rewards of that with a number of the investments they've made. It's been incredibly successful, but it is another example of a pay it forward where if I were to invest in the Endeavor Catalyst Fund, I'm basically giving up 50% of my gain to go back into the office. And they've been very successful in getting people to do that. So yeah, it's sort of a bolt-on to allow a fund to invest in these companies. And they honestly have absolutely tier 1 venture capital firms from all over the world that are investing in these Endeavor entrepreneurs. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit to us in Canada and Calgary to have those types of VCs that really are super interested in what Endeavor puts forward for entrepreneurs.
Great. Well, thank you for that very detailed answer, Susan. I think it helps people understand the breadth of the support that Endeavor will be providing. So I appreciate that. And I think it's 9:40 now, and we have no other questions. So I think that concludes our press conference. And just for the media, if you would like media avails or interviews, please feel free to reach out to us through our media line. We'd be happy to either help make people available and or answer any additional questions that you may have on your own. So thank you, Mayor Nanchi. Thank you, Susan Anderson, as well as Mark Blackwell, and of course, our superstar team at Calgary Economic Development for pulling this together. And thank you to the media for participating in the session today. And I wish you all a great day and be safe.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mayor Nanchi.